Welcome to this episode of This Week on the Battlefield, the show where we cover news, updates, the community, and so much more, all around the Battlefield franchise. In this episode then, we have news on changes coming to the base multiplayer experience and specifically looting for Firestorm in the next patch. We have a huge list of weapons, unreleased of course, found in the game files to talk about. We've got in community news, plenty of discussion on new maps in form of Conquest remakes of parts of Halvoy, the Firestorm Battle Royale map of course, and night versions of the existing Firestorm Conquest map and other Conquest maps in the game. And as announced of course, some absolutely brilliant Firestorm and regular, only in Battlefield moments for you guys to enjoy. But starting off with what has happened this week. Of course, Chapter 3 has begun. We got access to Firestorm, but we also got access to Chapter 3's progression, which means we now have access to an additional amount of skins and unlocks for us to chew through in the next coming weeks. In terms of content to come and changes to come, next week should see the base game and Firestorm receive a patch, with Firestorm obviously being the more interesting part of it. The main fix there should be the looting system, which should be seeing some adjustments to make it easier to get what you actually need from the downed enemies you've slain. However, devs have indicated that this is the first step and only a quick change. They will be working on further refining, further changing, possibly even changing the entire looting system as to make it better. This is more of a hotfix to keep people interested in Firestorm and to not let the looting ruin the entire experience. Also, the devs are looking into adjusting Firestorm XP, as it is now currently extremely low, as anybody really should know who's played the game. Even when winning a game, you only get a couple of thousand points, which you can rack up in, well, essentially 5 minutes playing on Conquest. But when that is to come, whether that is the update next week or an update in the future, is not specified yet. Further, the devs are also looking into adding scopes and attachments into the game. However, if and when this will actually make it is completely unclear. I just thought I'd mention it here as well while we're talking about Firestorm. Other changes coming to the patch for the normal multiplayer more relevant are additional changes and additions in form of Battlefield currency, finally supposedly being introduced into the game, hopefully with some cool cosmetics to buy with it as well, otherwise it is completely pointless in the first place. In terms of bug fixes, the only notable one I've seen mentioned is the ticket counter returning to frontlines, breakthrough and grand operations. However, we will be getting more details on the contents of the patch next week in form of patch notes as per usual. In terms of the mentioned hidden weapons then, we continuously talk about this because continuously the list becomes longer and longer. And now with the addition or the data mining surrounding the 5v5 competitive mode, the same individual has made a list of all the weapons he has found more considerable references to and maybe even models in the game files. And amongst them, and I'm going to be just reading them relatively quickly, are the M2 Carbine, which is a new assault rifle, the Breda PG, which is kind of a semi-auto burst AR, interesting weapon there, the M1919A6, an MMG, the MG30 or S2200, another MMG, of course the Madsen LMG, the Shoshat LMG, the Lahiti Solaranto M26, another LMG, the M9128, a bolt-action carbine, an interesting new class of weapons that we should hopefully see relatively soon. Alongside that, of course, also the Commando carbine. Then there's the MAB38, an SMG, the Sterling or Pachette, another SMG, the Wellgun and Lanchester, further SMGs that we've previously talked about, the M1917 Enfield bolt-action rifle, the Sjörgen Shellgun, the Railroad pistol, Model 27 revolver, and PPK pistol. In addition, there's also some machine pistols in the game and pistol carbines, two new classes of weapons that we haven't seen just yet. It's unclear, however, if those will actually ever make it into the multiplayer experience because, especially the machine pistols, were initially planned, of course, to be restricted for a certain archetype of the Scout class, which of course didn't make it into the game because the archetypes were more or less abandoned. Nevertheless, currently there are 3 available, or at least written into the game code, the Astra Model 903, the Machine Pistol M1912, and the Frommer Stopp Auto. In form of the pistol carbines, these should be familiar from the Battlefield 1 days, with the PO8 Artillery Luger making an appearance, the C96 carbine, and the MLE 1903 Extended. There's also a huge list of interesting gadgets, with the most notable ones, if you ask me, being the Panzerbuchse 39s and the Boys 80 rifle, both of these being anti-tank rifles. We may see the return of some form of gadget similar to the anti-tank weaponry we had in Battlefield 1 days, and also the Panzerschreck and Bazooka seem to be making an introduction sometime in the near future. Exciting things that hint, of course, of the addition of the Americans into Battlefield 5. All in all, if you want more details on these weapons, pictures, as well as some of these stats that are already available. I'll link to the Reddit post detailing all of this information and more down below in the comments if you want to check that out. In form of community news then, we had some interesting discussions around adding additional maps this week. Maps have been, of course, the focus of the community for quite some time now, with essentially, but for the Panzerstorm map, no additions being made to Battlefield 5 for what is now almost half a year. So people were wondering if there was going to be a night version of the Panzerstorm map as we have at the beginning of the grand operations, but for the regular Conquest. Devs have responded quite positively to this, saying that they were not only surprised by the popularity of Panzerstorm's night breakthrough sector in the first part, but would actually consider doing that, but only time will tell if they actually pull through with it. Lots of discussion in general actually over Conquest and time of day conversions of all of the maps out there, but nothing concrete sadly to report just yet. There's also been lots of discussion on Conquest conversions for parts of the Halvoy Firestorm map, and given the amount of information that devs have been requesting and they have been responding to concept drawings from certain members of the community, it does seem like they may actually be seriously considering making one or two Halvoy Conquest, maybe even breakthrough conversions of the Firestorm map, which would of course be a, relatively speaking, low effort way of adding some more multiplayer maps to the base game experience, something I think everybody in the community can agree would be a welcome addition. Also, the last thing in community news that I do have to mention is that the community survey for March has come out. It will, of course, also be linked down below in the description. And if you care anything about Battlefield 5 and letting the devs know what you think of it and what features you'd like to see in the future, including RSP, for example, don't forget to go and fill that survey out. There's some specific questions in there for you to answer, but also some open-ended questions where you can really tell the devs what you think the game needs to change or add to make it a better experience. With that, moving on, of course, to our only in Battlefield moments then. And starting us off, we have a couple of beautiful anti-aircraft clips. The first by Israeli 44, the second by Uncle Germany, showing us just how vulnerable those planes are when you have players like them on your team. Next up then we have X-Winter X-Soldier making quick tactical work of a tree to better deal with the enemies pestering him from behind it. And then second to last today, probably my favorite clip, we have the best V1 ever if you ask me. Firechronic and his teammate are facing a 2 versus 7 situation towards the end of a Firestorm game, and he's going to take care of all of them with his V1. And of course, what other way to end the only in Battlefield moments this week than with Time to Eat getting a Firestorm Tractor victory. But with that epicness over, we're coming to the end of this week's episode. If you enjoyed the show, found it interesting or entertaining, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it, and of course hit me up with your feedback, suggestions, and opinions down below in the comments or over on Twitter. With that being said, however, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you, of course, in the next episode of This Week on the Battlefield.